You are listening to the IU Report with Grant Shouse and Mike Hutsell every Tuesday on the Central Indiana Sports Report. Also, please check out my new daily podcast, Greg and His Friends Talk Sports, where my friends and I talk about what Central Indiana sports fans are talking about every single day. It's 10 to 20 minutes of IU, Purdue, Pacers, Fever, Colts, IndyCar, local college, local high school, and national sports news. And it's only on the Central Indiana Sports Report.
Welcome back, IU fans. It's the IU Report. Grant Shouse, Mike Hutsell, Greg Bengeld as well. And, a lot of the stuff we've talked about on here, of course, has to do with football, of course, with the late run. Kind of hate to admit it, but basketball's been a little bit on the back burner, just a hair here recently. But now basketball is kind of emerging right now. And Indiana, 2 quad one wins this week against Purdue, which was, great to beat your rivals, especially at home. And then go out on the road and beat UCLA the way they did. Wasn't pretty, but got the job done, Mike.
Yeah, and I texted you immediately after the game. I was like, how do you go from a catastrophic meltdown to possibly your best win in 2 years in the span of 2 overtimes? But they managed to do it. Probably should have never gotten there. You can feel however what you want to feel about not fouling up 3, but should have never got to a point where a 3-pointer would have tied it, if we're being real here. But to go into overtime with Enright going to the bench, no point guard, Conaway's hurt, Enright's out, and to gut through that, Reed Bailey, who had a great night, he fouls out. You've got Nick Dorn, Tucker DeVries, Lamar Wilkerson, guys playing almost 50 minutes in the game. There were more than one time in the 2 overtimes where it felt like we let this one slip away. UCLA is going to pull it out. And in the second overtime, Trent Perry, who went from a guy I've never heard of to maybe my least favorite player in the Big Ten in the span of about 2.5 hours on Saturday, hits a 3. They go up 93-90, and I'm like, game's over. Indiana's done. They just don't have it in them come back, but they gutted it out. They got the win. That's the first time UCLA's lost at home in, I think, 14 games. Had a 14-game home winning streak going into that. So you capped off a heck of a week, with the Purdue win, and then to go out there and beat that team who was playing pretty well going in, and to just pull that out when it really looked like you had blown the opportunity to do so.
I'll tell you what, this past week I've really become a Dorn addict. His emergence has been really good. Saw someone on Twitter say that he's now like the Charlie Becker of the basketball team. Like he's just come on at the right time and he's making plays, and they're better with him on the floor. He was the guy that, they're just trying to ease into the role there at the start of the year and wasn't playing as much as maybe he should have. And now he's come in and he's hitting shots, and he was a real big part of their success against Purdue, against UCLA, and staying out there again tonight against USC is going to be big. If he's able to put together the type of games that he's put together recently, then I think this team is really going to be a tough team to beat down the stretch, because now you're hopefully, knock on wood, I guess, but you're starting to get through that rough patch there that we talked about a few weeks ago, where like they had Nebraska and Iowa and Purdue, Michigan State. You're starting to kind of get out of that a little bit, and down the stretch of the year, you've got games that are still going to be tough to win. Don't get me wrong, because they're in the they're still conference games, but you're no question, I think, headed for better days and more winnable games here down the stretch.
Yeah, the key thing with Dorn is just, we've talked about adding a third scorer to this team, but more importantly than that is Indiana now has 3 guys that you can't leave on the perimeter, and Wilkerson, DeVries, and now Dorn. And even to that effect, I feel like that's opened things up a little bit, and you're starting to see a little more out of I can't believe I'm about to say it, Reed Bailey, because they're not sagging in and running 2-3 guys on him because they can't leave Dorn in the corner. So Bailey's getting a little more one-on-one opportunity, and you saw on Saturday when he had an opportunity, he played through physicality. He looked a lot better, and I think just Dorn's spacing is really gonna help out with Alexis and Bailey, who neither one of which are gonna be great post scorers, but just freeing up that space inside. And Enright, he's never gonna be a guy that you want to shoot 5 3-pointers in a game, but he's capable of knocking down 2. So at this point, with Dorn out there, you've got 4 guys on the perimeter who you have to account for, and you can't clog the lane, and you can run a little bit more back cuts. You can, if you get running downhill, people aren't gonna leave to protect the rim. You might get an opportunity to get a layup. Lamar Wilkerson did that several times in the overtime session. They weren't leaving Dorn, so he beat his man off the dribble, and he just was able to get to the rim. And I think the basket that eventually won the game, that's effectively what happened. Tucker DeVries had a possession where he was running point. He ends up beating his guy off the dribble. They don't want to leave. He finds Alexis, and Alexis gets a layup that cuts the lead from, I think, 3-1. So the added element of offense by Dorn's emergence and the 3-point shooting especially has done nothing but help this team. And hopefully that's something that you can see continue moving forward.
I think it's going to be exciting because I think this team is fun to watch sometimes. Obviously, when they're losing and not playing well, it's not fun. But we said it all year, they've lived and died by the 3, and hopefully you can see them start to come out of that a little bit, of living and dying by the 3 and just being more consistent. The UCLA game is just like the perfect game for your resume. Like, you had to have that game, especially to steal one on the road the way you did in overtime. Shout out Trent Sisley, dude. Getting fouled there with 0.3 of a second, knocking down clutch free throws for the freshman.
Yeah, I don't think that's an accident at this point. They ran that play against Purdue, 0.6 seconds on the shot clock. He gets free, he gets the ball, he draws a foul. And then in this game, 1.1 seconds left in the game, they run almost the exact same play. He gets free. He knows how to sell it. He knows how to get open on the cut, and he knows how to sell the foul. And for a freshman, those are 3 skills that you don't ever see every day. It just shows the potential I think that this kid can have as he grows into being a player, because he's got a lot of things that he's good at that you can't teach. And that was such a cool moment for him. He's kind of fallen a little bit out of favor. He's not played as many minutes in the rotation. He struggled a little bit a couple times, even in that game, missing some free throws, and you're not quite sure how he's going to step up there with 0.3 seconds on the clock and the entire game on the line, and he steps right up there and hits the first one, and at that point it's basically over because you're almost asking him to miss the second one.
Hey guys, I was this does have something to do a little bit with Indiana basketball here. Last night at the Pacers game, I was briefed that Pat Knight, who is the head coach at Marian University, has resigned. Of course, we know who that is. He has resigned mid-season. Apparently, there was an incident in a game a few days ago against Goshen where he completely had a tirade, a meltdown, similar to the one of his father, multiple of his father. And he has resigned and stepped down mid-season at Marian University. And which is crazy because, like, the IU connection there, of course, with him being who he is and Steve Downing being the AD there, I just thought that should pass that along.
That's surprising. That just seemed like a marriage that was going to go well. I hate to hear that. Pat was never able to really latch on and become a thing as a D1 coach, but I thought he had found a pretty good spot for him to continue his coaching career, and I hate that happened. You hate to see bad things happen to guys that you grew up watching, and But sometimes things happen because people do things to deserve for them to happen. So I haven't seen the incident. I haven't read about the incident. I don't know what happened. So I don't want to say this is bullcrap because I don't know. He may well be getting exactly what he should be getting for what's going on. But it is not. It's surprising because that seemed like something that was the fans were gonna get behind. It gave Indiana fans an opportunity to follow one of their own at a local level. And like you said, he was working for another IU guy who was the AD there. So a little frustrating. I'm gonna have to do a little more research on the incident.
I've really been in tune with
I
it
always
since the day he was hired. He took over a program for a coach that Scott Hedihue ended up going to the University of Indianapolis, and it did seem like the perfect marriage at the start. But I think he realized that this was going to take time, and you were going to have to really recruit the lead or really recruit the state good at the high school level, and he kind of was. Things weren't necessarily working out. I don't think there had been some other instances that had happened with him, and hate to see it happen because I've gotten to know him a little bit and I've been able to talk to him. I actually went to his introductory press conference at Marian, and it was pretty cool to sit down and talk to him. And every time I bumped into him at high school stuff, I've always talked with him and exchanged hellos. And I hate to see it happen to him because I've got a couple of friends down there at Marian, and they called me and told me, and then I looked into it, and it had happened. It sucks because I felt like he could really do a good job, but it just didn't seem like the right fit here in year two, year and a half, 2 years of him being the head coach. So just thought I'd pass that along.
So the Hoosiers play tonight, Grant. Chance to pick up win number 4 in a row. Chance to pick up their third quad one win in the span of a week. And a chance to play a basketball game where there's absolutely zero chance in hell that I'm going to be able to stay awake for the end of it because I'm going to go Mick Cronin here and say, this is ridiculous. 10 p.m. USC on Peacock. Complete the trifecta, 3 in a row on Peacock. Can't wait for that.
My God, Mike, I can't stand Peacock. I can't. Something happened with my login to where like I cannot log in on any other device other than like the one on my main Roku TV. Like I cannot get it on my phone. I can't get it on my laptop. So if there's a game on Peacock, I gotta watch it on the main TV at home. So I'll stay up. I'll watch it. I'll spare you. And hopefully we're watching Indiana get their third win in a row, third quad one win in a row, especially on the road.
Fourth.
Out there at USC would
Third
be
quad
huge.
one win, but yeah, it'd be their 4th overall. Yeah, and statistically, it looks like a game that Indiana should, if you go by metrics, should be favored. The Vegas line came out, I believe, at USC by 1.5, but the ESPN predictor has Indiana at 57%. The thing about USC is they have a lot of guys that play at least 10 minutes a game. And they played on Saturday just like Indiana did, but they didn't play 2 extra sessions on Saturday like Indiana did. And they didn't have anybody play 49 minutes like Indiana did. And Indiana had, I think, 3 guys who hit 49 minutes. The only thing that's gotten Connor Enright off the floor the last 2 games was he fouled out with 9 seconds left in regulation of the UCLA game, or he probably would be another guy who would have pushed 50 minutes on Saturday. So that's a 72-hour turnaround. These are something-year-old guys. You would like to think that the minutes aren't going to make a huge difference, but you're probably kidding yourself if you don't think there's a little bit of a hangover from that. And USC is it's an Eric Musselman team, man. They don't lose when they get off the bus, as they say. Athletically, they're gifted. Chad Baker Mazzara, the guy who I know is at least 3 years older than Grant and still playing college basketball, officially off of his parents' health insurance as of last week when he had a birthday. So congratulations to him. Hit that marketplace, buddy.
Happy birthday.
And it's a Musselman team that's filled with transfers. That's what Bus likes to do. Rodney Rice was supposed to come in from Maryland and be their point guard. Early in the season, he was, and they were doing really, really well. But he has been hurt. Doesn't look like he'll be back this year. They just added recently Gilbert Arenas' son, who had been hurt. He just started to come back. He's playing more. Cam Woods, a guy that transferred in from, I'm not even going to get, I thought it was Tulane, but that's strictly a guess. He had a huge night last week when they almost came back from 16 down to beat Iowa in Iowa City. And this is just one of those teams that Indiana's going to face that's in that lump of teams that they're competing against. They're that 6 through 12 mass of teams in this conference that aren't on the elite level of Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State, and Nebraska, but they're playing for seeding in Chicago for the Big Ten tournament. So, yeah, it would be huge to get the win. It would probably up their tourney odds to around 80 to 85% right now. Indiana went from about the 10th team out of the tournament to being discussed on the 7-8 line in the span of just a week. And if you keep stacking wins, and this is their, and I'm going to use air quotes that you can't see, easiest quad one win opportunity left on the schedule. So it would be a huge victory if they came out of this. Not a lot of teams go to LA and win both games in this conference. And I'm not even being a sarcastic, you know what, when I say Purdue wasn't able to do it just a couple of weeks ago. It's a tough trip. Nick Cronin will tell you it's the most rugged trip in the world to have to travel first class to Los Angeles on an airplane and play 2 basketball games in about 72-hour stretch. Huge opportunity for Indiana, a game that I feel like they could very well be favored by the time the game tips off. So get it done. Stack these wins, man. Let's attack February, and making the tournament in the first year of DeVries when he completely turned his roster over would be such a huge W for him and his tenure. So just get it done. And this is an opportunity to really, really cement your chance to do that.
In case you forgot, Indiana did win the national championship 2 weeks ago and went undefeated. Just figured, just because of all the basketball success, that people may have forgotten. But of course, we know Fernando Mendoza is probably going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. And you got multiple guys that are, 3 or 4 guys that are going to be taken in the first few rounds. D'Angelo Ponce being one of them. Elijah Surratt, I believe, is another one. Correct, Mike?
Yes, both the receivers, I think, are projected to be at least first 3-round choices.
It would have been nice to get Omar Cooper back for another year, because I know he had another year, but imagine the 3-headed monster at wide receiver next year if you had Nick Marsh, Charlie Becker, and Omar Cooper Jr. That is a dream wide receiver core. So this is a draft class. You're going to have more Indiana guys drafted in one draft class than ever, which I guess happens when you win the national championship. And those are just the guys that are going in the first, 2, 3, 4 rounds. You factor in other guys like Pat Coogan, who's probably going to get drafted. Aiden Fisher's probably going to get drafted as well. There's so many guys that are going to end up getting drafted from this team. It's hard to name them all, that are making an impact or are going to make an impact with some NFL franchise here in the next 2 years.
Yeah, and one guy who you haven't listed yet, but who just recently went to the Senior Bowl and had a heck of a week. It went from maybe a seventh round guy to an undrafted type of guy to you could probably see him in maybe as high as the fifth round. Is Keelan Black, the running back? Not a lot of people draft running backs. Running backs don't really particularly go as high as they used to, unless they're like an Ashton Genty or Jeremiah Love will this year. But Black, he really made a name for himself in the playoff. The way he ran against Bama, and then in the national title game, he was the guy that Cignetti seemed to trust the most in some of those key spots in the fourth quarter when they were picking up yardage on first down. But he really showed out well in his route running as far as a receiver goes at the Senior Bowl. His pass pro has always been something he's good at. And those are things that NFL scouts love. And once film starts going around on him, and if he has a pro day at IU where he runs even a remotely good 40, uh, he's going to be another guy that you see get picked. And then you talked about Coogan, you talked about Fisher, Lou Moore. Uh, is he going to get picked? He's a safety who did nothing but make plays all year. You would like to think that somebody's going to find a spot for him on
I
a
would think.
roster. So at what at one point there was an ESPN article that said 15 Indiana guys could get drafted. I think that's crazy, and that accounted for guys like Carter Smith, who we know is going back. I think they had Tyreek Tucker on that list. We know he's going back. So you probably, obviously, you're going to go down. But if Indiana gets 9 guys drafted in the NFL draft, that's more than maybe anything a national title undefeated season. You're never going to top that. But from a recruiting standpoint, Sig's never going to have more to hang his hat on than saying, look, I just took a bunch of JMU guys and got 9 guys drafted in the NFL draft. What more can this guy put on paper to sell to recruits than 16-0, national title, Heisman Trophy winner, and oh yeah, by the way, 9 of my guys just got picked to play on Sunday.
Thanks so much to Mike and Grant for joining me. Thank you for listening. Sorry about the sound there at the end. The fade, I made a mistake that doesn't seem to be fixable without having further audio issues. I learn as I go. Thank you so much for listening. Always appreciate it. Please do us a huge favor. Share this podcast with an IU fan in your life. Help us spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is talking about what Central Indiana sports fans are talking about every single day. Hope I got that fixed. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.